All right, how's everybody doing? Thanks for coming out and braving the sun. I appreciate that. Hopefully you all have like the first year I've ever used an umbrella in Portland in 20 years. So for those of you who aren't aware, we're going to talk about social media today. For those of you not on social media, don't listen to this next part. You can, if you're on the Twitter, I'm at Tim J. Lewis. Our businesses, Anvil Media and TX Mindshare. If you want to shout them out. Also, Anvil, Mindshare, and I will also be tweeting out relevant articles that we'll be touching on today. So if you want more information, you can also talk with one of our resident experts from Anvil. Melissa Fears is right up here. You can raise your hand. She's our guru on the social media side of things. And then one of our new talents is here. Melanie is actually periscoping this live. For those of you who don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But those of you on Twitter, you can tell all your friends to watch from all over the world. We did have a lot of requests for this to be on Periscope Live. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, is anybody here not on LinkedIn? Anybody dare raise their hand? Okay, so we now have a baseline. All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the profiles you need to know about in social. These are the things that I do in 15 minutes or less a day. So let's just see how this works. Does anybody here have over 1,000 connections on LinkedIn? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? How many do you have, Steve? You don't know? Yeah, I just looked on my phone, just so you can check your LinkedIn app. Yeah, and you just click on the faces, and I have, as of this right now, 6,700 connections. That's worth as much as I can throw them, but I'll tell you why that's important later. It's maybe not why you think that might be important. We'll talk about scheduling your content, some best practices, and some time for Q&A. But first of all, I think it's important to make sure that you claim and optimize your social profiles. So whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google+, there are many others, Instagram. From a professional standpoint, I think the big three would be LinkedIn, Twitter, and frankly, probably Google, not because of a lot of users, but from an SEO standpoint, it's important. Second tier would be Facebook, just because it's much more of a personal network. But that said, our background at Anvil and mine is in search engine optimization, so it's the idea of ranking in relevant Google results. So whether it's your business or your personal brand, you need to optimize your profile. So the one thing you'll notice when you look at your LinkedIn app or on your desktop, when you're looking through to look who you can connect to, this title, I'd say 20% of the time it's either blank or has useless garbage in it. Probably 80% of the time it's relatively description with just your title and your company that you're currently employed at. And then the smarter people add in some modifiers that really differentiate you and talk about your strengths and your talents. So this is probably the least, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is the least underutilized opportunity. It's the title under your name in LinkedIn. I suggest maximizing the character count. So it doesn't matter what it is, just keep typing until it stops and then keep editing until you get the maximum value. If I just say CEO for hire, that says something, but it doesn't say why I would look at you versus any other CEO. So it's what are your specialties, what are your experiences, and try and cram as much of that in here. That's our SEO background. Make sure that you've got the right category for your expertise and that you're localized properly. LinkedIn automatically pulls in the most relevant or most recent of jobs. So if you have the current jobs, you can kind of mess around with the dates to try and get the order right. So keep those in mind. And the other thing I see that's really pathetic is either no profile picture or a really ghetto picture. So it's pixelated, or it's you with your girlfriend or your girlfriend and your wife or whatever it is, and where you're in the middle, and it just looks stupid to have some other part of other people somewhere in your profile picture. So you don't need to go to the, these are not even great shots, but they're all done at random little photo shoots, and I just kind of sort of cycle through. So the idea is that even if you can't afford apparently rooms for a home, at least have good resolution and decent lighting. Also, remember, like on LinkedIn or on Twitter, you have a certain number of character counts. You can cite other profiles. So again, get in the right keywords so people doing searches within the platform will find you. But more importantly, these descriptions help you rank in Google for your own personal brand, or for your company profiles, or in branded searches for Anvil, Mindshare, what have you. So if you do a search for Kent Lewis today, you'll see my bio from Anvil, you'll see my LinkedIn profile, you'll see a bunch of other profiles or interviews. I turned Facebook off, so it won't show up at the top 10 my profile on, but you can do that if you want. I just choose to separate personal and business. But you'll typically see a lot of these profiles ranking quickly. So that's the first step, and that's without any real content. That's just your name, your bio, a brief description. I just had a guy selling financial services come in to pitch me today. Wasn't interested in his services, but he printed out my LinkedIn profile for some reason, put it in a folder, and gave it to me. Like I couldn't do that myself. And he said, this is the biggest profile I've ever seen. It is 14 pages to be printed. I would never ask you to scroll and read my LinkedIn profile. But I will say that it's still only 99% complete. So I don't know what other kind of blood and sweat and hair and teeth they want from me at LinkedIn. But I do recommend to build your brand is building out a full profile. So I have a friend that's been in another industry, he's changing industries, and he just has his current employer and his last employer, and no description of what he did there, no highlights, no ROI, no major goals accomplished, no recommendations. So the recommendations are the ones you have people write for you. People don't seem to do that anymore in LinkedIn. And then there's those useless endorsements where people say social media. So I maxed those out. I have like 20 of those that are 99 plus, just because I'm so connected. I'm in people's grill all the time. But again, I don't know what that's worth. So, but to have some of those, the first way I tell if any of you are credible is I scroll down at your LinkedIn profile and look at how detailed your job descriptions are. If you have any recommendations or any endorsements, do you follow any LinkedIn groups just to see if you understand the platform? Because part of, if we're hiring you at Anvil, we want to see what virtual Rolodex do you bring, what momentum do you bring to Anvil. And I think any good recruiter, I know Vitamin Talent in the back may have some thoughts on that too, but how are you differentiating yourself? And if any of you are in sales, and there's a point at a couple years back where it was between two people for a sales role, and one had over 500 connections, the other guy was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get on LinkedIn tomorrow. Who do you think we hire? So, this is part of what you're buying as a company looking to hire, to build out your network. One thing you can do is you download the LinkedIn app, and this is also true from your desktop. And when I log in, there's the little faces, the little people, and I click on that, and it says people you may know, and it just gives you a plus or add them or put an X. And every day I look through maybe 50 to 100 people, and I'd like to add these people to maybe 10. And so when I started doing that, I was at 6,500 people, maybe 3 weeks ago. Now I'm at 6,700. But these are all people that I want to connect with: VP of marketing, CMOs, people I know. So if you want to grow your LinkedIn network quickly, you can do it infinitely on that. It just takes time to click X or yes. It's like a Tinder for your personal branding. Who knows? You might hook up with someone. So you'll notice there will be some dry humor with that throughout this presentation. And I know there is a young child back there, but he has headphones on, so buckle. So, all right. So let's build our followers. The first thing to do is if a tree falls in the forest, you hear it. So if you build out a killer LinkedIn profile and you're not marketing it in your signature file, in your other marketing materials, is anybody going to see it? Right? How are they going to find you? So, and same thing with Twitter. I'm posting all this brilliant content now, but nobody's following me. So, and I'm not the expert of jacking up followers and gaming the system per se. That's Melissa's knowledge. Maybe she won't say that's the best practice, but it can be done. But what I would say is that the first way to start is look at who the industry influencers are. So in LinkedIn, you can follow influencers and see what they're writing about, what they're talking about. In Twitter, you can use a variety of tools like Follow Along or some other tools, or just manually do searches and find who are people that frequently post on topics you're interested in, that have a large follower base, and you're just plain interested in what they're posting. So like Instagram, once you follow so many people, you're just never going to keep up on everybody's posts. It's sort of Twitter 7 years ago, I would say. But the idea is like follow influencers, and they tend to follow back. Engage these influencers in conversation, ask them questions in Twitter and LinkedIn, and start developing a rapport. If new followers follow you, follow them back. And again, that's not what I do. My goal is to have as many followers as possible with following the fewest number, which is why I have probably a low number of followers compared to other people that game the system. I'm not interested in seeing a bunch of garbage in my feed. And again, this is a whole other presentation for another day, but another way to gain credibility and visibility quickly is proper use of hashtags. So if you watch the Super Bowl, you know what those are. They're in every other commercial. But the idea is that, particularly on Instagram, I noticed if I use even one hashtag, let alone the 30 possible, I'm saying that that's a good thing. Josh Shaw, supplement, really way into this stuff. But I kind of like only a couple hashtags per post. But that's a great way to get way more exposure, and you'll find way more followers will be gained from smartly using hashtags. Compelling and engaging content. So that sounds great, but what is that? Well, it really depends on what your expertise is. Interestingly, I have sort of two levels of expertise. The first is keeping my friends amused in Facebook. So I'll bump into people, it's like at school or out for drinks, and they're like, dude, that thing was so hilarious with the thing that went through in the kitten and the taco, it was just great. Keep it coming, and that just makes me want to do more. But the same thing really with business. With LinkedIn, I'm a filter. I look every morning to see what's the news that I think is worthy of sharing. 3 to 5 posts a day, let's say. So we'll talk more about that later in terms of what kind of volume you're looking at. And what I do least, and this is just my bad, is engaging more conversation, particularly in Twitter, is when you see people of interest and you start to engage with them in conversation. Most I do is thank people here or say thanks there. But you find when our clients, and we encourage our clients to engage in conversation with our customers, really magic things can happen. So for you as an individual building your career, engaging the pundits and the experts and the influencers is a smart way to ingratiate quickly, especially if you do it consistently and smartly and authentically. And then, building your own rep. If you want to get things going faster, particularly with your business, it would be boosting posts. It seems weird if I were to personally boost my posts on Facebook, it's like buying friends or something. But the idea is that in business, you can get going if you have a consultancy you're starting, is create your profiles, start posting content and boosting it out to your network so that more people see them. Some of you may or may not be aware that a lot of your posts aren't being seen, maybe less than 10%, particularly on Facebook. So it sucks to have to buy your users and followers multiple times, but that's what's happening. And then the timely using information, that's kind of my thing is, I see something, I'm the first to share it. Just today I posted something about SEO and Ahrefs and something very technical, and one of my friends, a former client up in Seattle, favorited it immediately, liked it on Twitter, made me feel good because she's a super long nerd, and I was like, wow, I'm sharing stuff that the really smart people like, so I know I'm doing it right. So that's a good way to check how you're doing is to look at who's liking, what the engagement levels are, that sort of thing. So in terms of breaking down each of these things a little bit, so content strategy, I like to start by looking at if this is let's call it, whether it's a marathon or it's a race or a sprint, I like to know who I'm running against, who's the competition. So one good thing to do is look at your competitors, other people looking for jobs that you know of in the space, how have they presented themselves, other consultants, other companies, how are they representing themselves? So what you're looking at is who's setting the pace in cycling. It's the peloton, and running, it's whoever the fastest person is, let's say. But the idea is that we want to see, I like to see who set the pace and see if I can beat them, right? For whatever content strategies and marketing strategies. The other thing is talk to your constituents. So if I'm looking for a job, I'm talking to potential recruiters like Vitamin Talent. I'm talking to potential HR managers. I'm talking to CMOs, whoever it is, and saying like, what do you look for in a new recruit? Somebody you really want on your team. What are they doing out on social? And use those insights to build your strategy. time and time again, I've talked to prospects or a few assorted clients where this is like talk 5 to 10 years ago when they need our help with social just to get started, and they'd say, well, we want to do social, but we're not sure where to get started, and that includes 8 years ago, Doc Martens didn't know what to do in social media, and they said, well, we don't want to do it wrong. We kind of waited too long. And I said, well, you can't do it wrong. You're Doc Martens. You're going to do what you're going to do, and people will like it or not, but they'll tell you, right? You're not like, you're doing it wrong. You can't tell Nike they're doing it wrong. You can tell them they can do it better. So interestingly, that they never thought to talk to their customers. Well, what do their customers want on social media? Do they just want product ads being pushed at them, or do they actually want to have a discussion about how to evolve the products? It's different for every brand. Each platform has its own analytics. So how many of you look at your Twitter analytics daily? At least my Endo people think of it. So if you go in and it's like, it's your name / analytics or something like the URL, you remember?
You can just click on the settings where your username is and just
yeah.
drop
So
down.
once you're logged into LinkedIn, just click on the menu and look at your analytics, or you can Google it.
No, it's where your picture is, and it's just drop down. They've made it really easy.
So your picture, drop down. But I know that I originally found it because once you can click on a general link that's Twitter analytics, it'll go to your analytics if you're logged in. But anyway, so I bookmarked it and I look at it every day to see what's engaging. I noticed that yesterday Twitter unleashed their, cranked down their filters. So I had a huge number of impressions, like 2x the normal day. There was a day like a month ago where it was like 10x. So normally I get like, let's say 3,000 to 5,000 impressions, and I had 100,000 impressions. Made no sense. Same volume of tweets. Nothing unusual. So Twitter's constantly tweaking their algorithm, so it's good to keep an eye on. But generally what you're looking for is, relatively speaking, what content is most interesting to the people I want to reach. And theoretically, people you want to reach are already following you or should be. So look at that as a representative sample. But what we like to say about all of our content is it needs to be useful, have some sort of utility to it, to the end user, your target audience. Hopefully somewhat inspired and certainly empathetic. Most of the companies that I've worked with are really good at talking about themselves and their products and services, and only a certain percentage of your customers are going to give a shit. So what you really need to do is talk about, show that you care, ask a lot of questions. You know, social media is the world's largest focus group, so take advantage of that, not just as a company, but as an individual. Look and see, what are the trends? What are people talking about? How can I get ahead of this trend and have a point of view about it and really get people interested? So typically what's shared most on social media back in June 14, if we remember way back then, but my point is that this hasn't changed much. It's informative, it's educational, it's funny or entertaining, it's cause or politically related, especially in election years, edgy, controversial, or dramatic or moving. What we found, the research that came out of Australia a year ago, was that men tend to share funny, entertaining, not a shocker, and women tend to share dramatic and moving. So you do what you want, but there's still some gender differences in social. This is an example of a snapshot in, I believe this is YouTube analytics. So kind of where gender, location, where the traffic is coming from, and what device they're playing it on. That's just a sampling of your YouTube analytics. If you want to be really cutting edge and you're just building your brand now, you really should have a YouTube channel, your own personal channel. You certainly were going to want a company channel as well. Does anybody here have a personal YouTube channel they use that is built for marketing themselves? Wow. Vimeo. So Vimeo is great. If you're like Johnny and you're in the film business, that's ideal. If you're in the SEO visibility business, less than ideal, because the film quality doesn't balance the fact that YouTube is the second largest search engine by volume. So you want to be in YouTube from a visibility standpoint. If I'm in film, video, entertainment, or technology around video, I have to be on Vimeo. So, but YouTube is going to be the place you need to be. And that's because, video has a 5 times higher recall than text. They're going to see a video of you and be that much more or less compelled to work with you as an individual or a professional. You can tell a story in much less time, and you can do it much more effectively. But being from Portland, where we're all tree huggers, the best part of video is it's very recyclable. So you can re-atomize it as text, images, or audio as well as video. So one recording is 4 form factors. when you have it transcribed. Plus, you can syndicate the crap out of it on all the different social platforms. So be thinking in terms of video. So even if you're sitting here on your phone, how many of you have Instagram on your phone? All right, so the beauty of it, how many of you have at least 30% of your content on Instagram as video? None of you, right? So you're all like, oh, these filters, I can take beautiful pictures. And that's true, you can make yourself look artificially good, right, with these filters, or gifted, even your duck face, right? But the trick is that video, you got 15 seconds of video. It's such a more compelling way to tell a story. Now, images have their place, but so does video. So think video when you're using platforms like Instagram, where it's so easy. And of course, Facebook loves native video, so you want to film things. I'm going to upload a 30-second spot to Facebook for my friends, and 15 seconds on Instagram, and a full minute video interview on YouTube, and you can do all that from right here on just your smartphone. Does anybody here not have a smartphone? Okay, so I know there are certain people that have flip phones, and that's cool. It's cool to be retro.
You can filter videos now too.
Right, and you can filter your videos on Instagram, so you can look even better than the videographer, and look for maybe Abrams to cite you as their new best man, dolly grip, whatever. Give me a cameraman, whatever person. I don't have a lingo. So, trolling for content. What are some of the tools that I use? Again, there are others, and you can chime in. But the first thing you should do is set up a Google alert for your own name, your company name, your competitors. Pick 3, and once a day, roughly, you'll get an update from Google saying, here's some new stuff in search you might want to know about. What's interesting is when I use Help a Reporter Out, where I pitch PR stories to editors looking for experts, I find when they don't even respond, next thing you know, I'll see a Google alert in the morning, this article featuring Ken Lewis on Inc. magazine, and then 2 days later they'll email me and say, I included you in my article, and I've already tweeted it out and celebrated, and this is faster than the human can apparently type. So use Google Alerts judiciously and liberally, actually more liberally than judiciously, because it's free, and you can always delete or change the filters. Mention .net I like because it picks up signals that Google doesn't. A little bit of search, a little bit of social, but always fresh, pretty intuitive. If you're looking more on social signals like sentiment or velocity, you can use social mention, do a search. You can set up some feeds there. These two have a premium offering, but I use all 3 free. Mainly I use these 2 daily. There's another tool that I use that's here today, working with Infotensia, which is powered by Tensa, and you can set up feeds that go to fully custom or hidden or subscriber-only databases and get what you need and organize the content that way, which is really helpful. But there's you have to work with those guys to set everything up at least once. So these are some of the tools you can use by tracking yourself. So it's important to know what comes out about you before everybody else knows it, so you have a chance to deal with it if it's not flattering, let's say. Or if it is, you want to shout it out first. You want to see what your competitors are up to. What approaches are they taking that are new and different? Do you need to do it better or different? That's all important as well. Back to the video and the importance of video. I don't know how many people have seen this chart from last year, but I find it very fascinating. It's what platforms are best, social platforms are best at converting new leads or customers. And YouTube is the best only touch, the very best first touch, and the very best last touch. And then Twitter is the very best no touch. I mean, it's middle touch. It's really not that good for anything compared to the power of YouTube. Does anybody here not use YouTube to figure out how to replace your garbage disposal blade, or how to learn a new killer knitter move, right? So everybody's on there. They're all there hanging out, and this is your chance to target them with original organic content, or even some ads if you want. But it's a huge assist because it's that much more engaging. It's a more emotional medium than the written word, or to a degree even text. Images. Facebook, not bad. For businesses, particularly consumer, it's really good for ad targeting. You can target down to Jesha and Southeast, and boom, I got him with an ad, pretty much, more or less. We're going to say that. There's a guy in our industry that says, like, literally, you can target the ambassador to Spain if you want on Facebook ads, if you so want to target the ambassador to Spain. Google Plus, none of you are probably spending any time on it. I probably post once a week on Google Plus versus a dozen times a day on Twitter. But it is important because it's Google and Google owns search that you need to have some sort of presence on Google Plus and create content on there somewhat regularly. It can only help your visibility and your credibility in search because that's how Google ties in general search content and context with you individually. So that's a really important thing to do. It's Google Plus. We already talked about LinkedIn. Some of these others, you know, give or take. If you're in a visual industry like wedding planning, food, fashion, Pinterest makes a lot of sense. I don't know really what Tumblr makes sense for. Melissa, do you have any thoughts on Tumblr?
Tumblr doesn't work for a lot of brands, but for something that's really visual, I mean,
yeah, so I think
more along the lines of Pinterest.
I see it's kind of like a catch-all of all your portfolio. So if you're more of a creative or visual oriented, it's a great place, but it'll feed in all kinds of different content. We do virtually no work in Tumblr for our clients because their customers typically don't use it. And I just saw an article today about Tumblr like losing its way, and that doesn't surprise me at all. So one thing to think about is to build content for your funnel. Your personal funnel is, your awareness funnel is, hey, I'm Ken, I'm out here, I'm a fun guy, check me out. The interest is like, I do these things really pretty well. I can fake it till I make it with SEO, social media, etc. The intent is, you know, I can help you grow your business, let's talk. And then the purchase is like, let's work together, here's a customer testimonial. So to show you how easy it is, I was in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago at a conference. If anybody here rides a Harley or a V-twin, that was the expo. It was all about Harley, the Harley community. And one of our clients, CV Performance, he was there and I was speaking about the power of YouTube for marketing your retail motorcycle shop, right? And I was like, you know what? We have a written testimonial on our site from him, but we don't have a visual one. So I basically just stood in a corner with him and said, go, you have 15 seconds. Talk about Anvil. He's like, Anvil increased our business 30%. I was like, perfect, great. So I posted that up, and then 5 minutes later, I walked in and did an hour session on YouTube marketing, and I opened with this video. I just took this 2 minutes ago. It took me less than a minute. We did 2 takes, no post-production, right? No sound editing or extra lighting. That's it, done, 15 seconds, really. So there's no reason that you couldn't have testimonials about you as a consultant or an expert, former employees, current coworkers, bosses, clients, that you're just getting these quick 15-minute videos and putting them up on Instagram and then embedding them in your website. So this is now embedded on the Anvil website and our client's testimonial section. Easy peasy, right? If you're a corporation, more or less, this makes a lot more sense. If you're an individual, it's, you know, maybe you're doing little talking promos, little how-tos or Q&As. A lot of different content you can do. It doesn't have to live on video. But the beauty is if I recorded 1-minute video talking about the power of networking, then I could transcribe that into text and make a blog post out of it, take a few of the HD quality images from the video, put those up on Pinterest, yada yada. So there's a lot you can do, but think in terms of I need content for every step of the way to get that job or get that client or customer. So in terms of that, getting back to the original theme on 15 minutes a day, you're probably thinking, how the hell are you doing this in 15 minutes a day? But really, once you get it going, I'm just keeping the flywheel going. I've got it spun up and I'm just keeping it going. 5 minutes a day here, 5 minutes there. So again, the idea is if a video lives primarily on YouTube, and again, you could have some of your high-end quality stuff on Vimeo, natively uploads separate videos to Facebook, but that 1-minute YouTube video is a 1-minute audio podcast. Now you're a podcaster, you're a radio star, you can check that off your bucket list. Have it transcribed to your blog, strip out some images. You know, a 1-minute video in high res, high def is like 850,000 images. You can't tell me I just don't have a camera. And the other factor is, you know, a lot of the professional videographers are using SLRs. Even Leica uses just SLRs to film their stop motion. It's a lot cheaper than the RED cameras and that sort of thing, and easier to maintain, and you're getting amazing quality as well. So, you know, again, audio, you have images and video, 15 seconds of video, 6 seconds of video. I don't know if anybody uses Vine anymore. I think there's 3 people in downtown that use it. But it's still just a part of Twitter anymore. So there are a lot of ways, and then you can use video ads on LinkedIn, take some of that content out, and we'll talk about this separately, is instead of posting on your own blog, if you don't have a blog, just start on LinkedIn Pulse. Has anybody posted to LinkedIn Pulse? Steve, yeah. All 4 of you, fantastic. So LinkedIn Pulse is LinkedIn's blog platform, and they want you to write on their platform because they want content, and content wins, right? So I have maybe 15 or so posts that I've done the last, I think it's been out almost 2 years. So it's an easy way to create a presence as an individual without having to go create a blog, host a blog, or deal with WordPress or any of that. Super easy to do. Just a quick little, you'll get a copy of this posted on SlideShare, I think tomorrow.
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Yeah, so SlideShare/PDX Mindshare, you can get this deck. So I'm not going to go into huge detail, but this is kind of one of our best practice slides, I hope, from one of our internal decks on just some basic cadence. But I personally schedule, this isn't necessarily best practice, this is a Kent Lewis practice, but I use Hootsuite, and I schedule out roughly a tweet an hour from 8 to 4 every day, and then a couple on the weekends because those get higher engagement because there's less competition. I rarely post on Pinterest, but I probably post on Instagram, try and do maybe once or twice a day. So one thing I learned from my buddy is I take maybe a dozen pictures when I'm out at a cool location, like right here, it's like, you know, and then I'll take a bunch of pictures and then I'll feed them out over a 2-week period so that, especially if it's contextually not a big deal. So I took pictures of maybe 100 motorcycles when I was in Cincinnati, and I've been, once a day I'll post a new one from my vast library on my phone, and they're all gorgeous, and then I can hashtag them all separate, and people are like, wow, that's cool. And so each one is an opportunity, whereas I posted a lot of them straight to Facebook for my friends, and my friends that are into motorcycles didn't see that post. They didn't see the 30 bikes, and I was reposting a few, and like, oh, that's awesome. So it's a way to get a lot more mileage is by individually throttling out your content over time. And if you can get a video or two up on YouTube, hallelujah, there's only like 5 of you up here that are in here that have uploaded any videos whatsoever. So you're ahead of a game if you post 1 or 2 videos. Maybe not a talking head to yourself for an hour, but anything will do, just to get started. So keeping it fresh with blogging. Again, easy way to get yourself out there. WordPress is a great place to start, and it's free if you go to the WordPress, and you can have like kentlewis.wordpress.org. But I would suggest starting with LinkedIn Pulse. You can go to your, forget how to get to, there's like 3 or 4 different ways to get to Pulse through your profile, and one other navigation point. And it'll just say, do you want to create a new post? Yep. And I write my posts in Word, so spell check, I get a rough word count. I have an image in mind. You don't want to post on LinkedIn Pulse or any blog post without an image or some sort of media. Google loves multimedia, and LinkedIn more or less requires it. So it could be anything. For one post I didn't have an image that worked, so I just created, we have no design staff in-house, so I created a PowerPoint, used a font I liked, did a snippet, I took a snapshot of it, and then uploaded that word as my headline, masthead image, out of PowerPoint. Like, you can do anything you want, but I recommend having lots of pictures in your library, or just spending the $1 on the dollar stock photo site or whatever it is. Images can really make you look a lot bigger and more professional. Again, I already mentioned this, so share your blog. So it's one thing to blog and then sit there on your hands and hope maybe somebody will read it someday, but it's really important that you syndicate the hell out of everything you create. So if I post something on LinkedIn, or I use iMedia, is where I write as a columnist maybe once a quarter or so. As soon as that hits, I'll hit up all my social profiles. I'll syndicate the same article to LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. And then I will do, for that same day, if it comes out in the morning, I'll probably hit Twitter 4 times with that post, 4 hours apart. And then the next day I'll hit it twice, the next day once, and then maybe I'll wait a day or 2, and then I'll wait a week, and then I'll wait a month. But the idea is that, particularly in Twitter, the atrophy rate is so great that you can hit people multiple times. But on LinkedIn, I would never do the same post more than once a day. You don't want to annoy people. Same thing really with Facebook as far as I'm concerned. So the idea is that frequency really depends on which platform, but you want to be in people's face consistently over time, but you don't want to be annoying. So you got to look for that balance for each platform. But you've got to get your stuff out there, and because only a certain percent will see your posts at any given time. You got to hit them multiple times before they might even see it once.
Can I ask you a quick question? So
Yeah.
you're saying you're posting to Twitter 4 times on that. Is it a unique post every time, or are you just saying the same thing?
If I was getting paid to do it, I'd probably tweak them. I usually only tweak them a little bit here or there. But if I was getting paid to do it, I'd spend a lot more time tweaking them each time and then testing like which one got the best response. But I know that Melissa, with pretty much every client she touched, she re-optimized older posts and they got massive engagement by just doing it right the second time. So you can test and tweak, and that's the thing is the things can live a very minuscule amount of time, particularly on Twitter. It just dies. So you can use it over and over multiple times the right way, and people will finally get the message. And I don't know the last time I saw the same post twice. I'll never talk to this brand again. But 5 or 10 times. And it can be bad. I spoke down in San Diego at a search engine marketing organization session on search and social. And a week after I spoke, I noticed in my feed for mentions, he was posting blocks of 20 identical posts of "See Kent Lewis speak," and that was a week later. And he did it for 3 days straight of like 20 posts at a time, a couple times a day before I finally decided to email him and say, "Dude, what are you doing? You're trying to lose all your followers." So, be careful when you automate posts that you're doing it right. It can backfire. So, a couple things about LinkedIn Pulse. This is what I'm tweeting this out as we speak, more or less, but 3 reasons why you should publish on LinkedIn Pulse. And you can see this when you view, but 300 views, 17 likes, 2 comments, And then you can get, you'll get trended views over time across every post. And then this is my best ever, almost 3,000 views, 96 likes, 12 comments on the idea that salespeople are hunters and marketers are gatherers. They're the farmers, they're nurturing, and the salespeople just want to kill. So I would recommend you read it if you're a sales or marketing person, because it's kind of like are you an introvert or an extrovert, and like understanding the other people and how you can work together better. So I think that's the reason why this guy has 10x the views is because LinkedIn Pulse editors featured in LinkedIn Pulse today. So that's when you go onto the feed and you see the top articles, and I've had maybe 3 of my 14 featured, and it jacks up the views amazingly. Like you get in front of everybody that way. So if you write your stuff good enough, you have a good image. I purposely crop them; they're not awesome images, but you get picked up. So the link bait is what we call it. Jesha's expertise is creating a title that's so compelling that you have to read it. You want to click through and see what it is. There's something to be said about that, which sometimes can conflict with the SEO value of having just the right keywords in it and nothing else. So a little sizzle, a little steak, but powerful imagery. Don't forget to embed your links to tell the story better and reference other materials. So again, my headshot, my description, all are important. It ties me together as a brand throughout the experience of looking up stuff about Louis. By comparison, I write articles for iMedia, so a lot of ads, a lot of busyness. They pick out their own imagery for my articles, I don't. But I can see the sharing, although these reset now, so it's hard to tell. This is from January. But it's always better for you, if you have a relationship with an industry publication, to write for them than it is to write for yourself, because I've been published, right? It's always more powerful as to market yourself to say I'm syndicated, I'm published in the industry. So I've been publishing since I think 06 or 07 with these guys, 5-6 times a year. So a lot of content, and I've prospects and clients have found us through our writing as a brand, as a company. This is a great way to get your brand out there. So management tools. Oh, one more thought about this. So when it comes to syndicated articles, so you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, I have a PR background. This is old hat to me. This one was opportunity referred by one of my friends. Said, hey, do you want to write for iMedia? I was like, sign me up, because sometimes you need an introduction. But I could have gone to them directly through always go through the editor-in-chief, not the publisher, and say, here's some of my sample writing on LinkedIn Pulse or my blog. I'd love to write for you. Here's some ideas I have, or is there anything you would like me to write about. And publishers have less money to spend, they need more content, so they're willing to get free. You get the exposure, they get the content, everybody wins. So you just find the target pubs and ask, if you find 10 of them, ask 10 and you'll probably get 2 offers. Yeah, please write for us. And now you're suddenly published. In terms of the 15 minutes focus, you really need a tool to make this work, and I use Hootsuite. It's all of $5 or $6 a month to be able to schedule tweets, track the URLs, cross-post to different profiles. It's a very powerful tool. I connect it with Twitter. Right now, I primarily use it for Twitter, secondarily for Facebook and LinkedIn updates. Actually, I'm sorry, I use it for mainly Twitter and LinkedIn, occasionally personal stuff on Facebook, and I probably have access to 10 Twitter profiles that I've created or have access to over the years. So I can cross-post the same post to 10 different places, and if you follow me, you probably would notice every once in a while that there's certain big news, I'll just hit them all at once. It's just easier. But generally speaking, you want to pace that stuff out. So the way Melissa might do it for a client is different than the way I do it for myself, because I only have 15 minutes a day. I don't have hours a day to work to make it totally dialed and pace it out properly. So I schedule my own content. As I said, I want to have at least one original piece of content a day, even if it's recycled. And then most of it, I'm kind of like at 95.5, even though that's not what we tell our clients, is only 5% of my content on my tweets, or let's say 10 is original, like 1 or 2 original articles, and the rest of our retweets of other stuff that's useful. Otherwise, if I have 2 tweets a day, nobody's going to see me. So that's just my philosophy. You pick your own. Don't copy me. But shortening URLs is important. Also, that little subtleties like Twitter is to know how many characters your handle is. So mine's 11. At Kent J. Lewis is 11 characters. So my tweets should be no more than 131 characters with a URL included. Otherwise, people if they want to manually retweet it, they have to shorten it, and then they're going to change YOU to U, or they're going to cut some corners, and then it's not going to be as pretty. And I've seen every day I see big brands creating content that they didn't even think about the retweet at all, and isn't that their whole goal, right? So they don't even think ahead about crafting tweets that are retweetable. So think about that. That's really only applies for Twitter for the short term, before they move to the 10,000 character tweet situation, whatever that's going to look like. And cross-post, with some thought. So I know that the people who follow me on Facebook are different than, for the most part, Twitter or LinkedIn. So I might pick a neutral piece of content and share it on all 3 and not piss anybody off, because they probably won't all see it anyway. But even if they did, they'd say, oh, he cross-posted it, and they move on with their lives. Again, the likeliness that they're going to, put a flaming bag of poo on my doorstep is minimal for that. Again, this is the 15-minute a day. This isn't Nike, right? Best practice. This is for you. So this is Hootsuite, and I took this screenshot when I was right before the Super Bowl. Key and Peele doing their thing. But there's who I follow in their feed. Then there's times when people are using my handle and mentioning me, and then there's my own tweets, and a lot of these that's a retweet. This is one of the photos of one of the custom bikes at the show. So you got to get a sense. And again, hashtag Randall Live, because it was work related. I don't hashtag Randall Live to my personal stuff per se. If you were to, you can see all the different tabs different profiles I manage. Instagram's kind of a joke. It says it's tied in, but you have to manually post it to Instagram, so it doesn't really save you any time to Hootsuite, from my experience. You can see what you've scheduled ahead, and you can check out your analytics, which is really fun. So this is the publisher. So this is an average Monday for me. I'm except for these 2, I'm roughly every hour at random intervals, but roughly every hour. So I scheduled only when I auto-schedule retweet, it'll only be between 8 and 4, because I'm also thinking about the East Coast. And I manually put in something at 6 or 7 a.m., so I'm hitting the East Coast with something before they go off to lunch, basically. And you can just kind of pace things out. You can see that I'm cross-posting on a bunch of other profiles. I can see if Shannon posts something to Mindshare. I can see what she's posting, and this is good for companies. You can have multiple levels of control and have people post to different things at different times and permissions. So that's the publisher. And then they have a new analytics capability in beta that I just only glanced at, so you can get a big aggregated view of if you have multiple profiles. It'll just show post volume. Blue is your current time frame, black is previous, so you can kind of benchmark how you're doing week to week or period to time period. These are just general post volumes and followers and engagement levels. So this rolled out last week, roughly, early last week as a beta. They have a new interface for Hootsuite. It's so jacked up that I reverted back to the original, just a piece of garbage for now, which is what you already saw. So setting a schedule, again, this is just what I do. Take it for what it's worth. You may have a different approach. Sunday nights, I typically, or Monday mornings before work, I get on my computer and I look at, I've auto scheduled tweets. Every morning when I look at my feed in Twitter, I auto schedule maybe 10 tweets, or no, maybe 5 tweets. So I'm always a week ahead, so that the Sunday or Monday morning, I have a full week of content almost every hour. It automatically publishes roughly once an hour, and then I can move a few around, so I like the pacing just right. Takes maybe 10 minutes, and then I'm set for the week, and I can, so if you follow me only on Twitter, you'd never know that I've ever gone on vacation or not worked, because every hour there's something going on business-wise. But that's not the reality, that's what I want you to believe. And then I'm always including URLs as relevant, sometimes hashtags. One thing I do is, at the most I might take, if there's an article about SEO and SEO is in the title, I'll just hashtag that word in the title and not add it to the end per se. It may read a little funkier, but I can fit more stuff in. I'm all about that. We're going to talk about leaving space. So in the morning, I literally wake up, boot up my phone, and get on my Hootsuite feed and auto-schedule things. I'll check my LinkedIn feed, and I will look at sharing a few things. And when I share on LinkedIn, it automatically syndicates to Twitter. So my Twitter every morning has 3 to 5 pieces of brand new, fresh news right there. Plus, on my LinkedIn feed, and this is where your number of followers comes into play, you'll always see when you guys check in at 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, whenever you're rolling to work, you'll see in your feed, Kent's shared these new posts. So I'm in your feed every morning, whether you like it or not. And you can always shut me out of your feed, but generally, I'll take that risk. I'd rather be in your most of your faces than not at all, and have 1 or 2 you say that's enough. That's fine. So again, I might share on average 3, usually not more than 5 updates in the morning. Those syndicate to Twitter, they get buried quickly. And then I will look at the feed and make sure that I've got a good amount of current feeds. I'll also look at my publications I read or get daily emails. I'm old school, I don't use RSS or anything. I get my email newsletter and I'll click through, and if I like it, I'll share it right from that page. So if I'm reading Wall Street Journal or iMedia or somewhere else, I'll just share through LinkedIn. That way it hits LinkedIn and it hits Twitter, and I'm getting more exposure for that same post. And that's other people's content, let alone my own. So that's generally it. Again, there's certain places like Google+, Facebook, or Instagram. 1 post a day, 1 post a week, good to go. Just enough to keeping people's feeds top of mind awareness. So I'll just go through each platform in a little bit of detail, and we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So with what I do in general throughout the day, I look at Hootsuite in between meetings, maybe no more than probably on average, like really 2, 3 times a day. And I'll just see, did I miss any mentions? So I should have conversations. I'll look at my keyword search and see if anything popped up where they mentioned me or Anvil or Mindshare without any @ signs, so it's not attached to my profiles, but it'll show up. And do I need to retweet or address any issues? And then I will go ahead and post or share content. On Instagram, I'm all about the best photos I can take. And I've seen, you saw the Tim Cook photo, the blurry photo at the Super Bowl, and what a bunch of crap he took for that. But I'll tell you what, this Samsung S6 kicks the crap out of iPhones for image quality, and I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody in the room on that. But I have people saying, like, what camera did you use to take that picture? It's like amazing. And it's like, it's this phone. I'm like, no way. But if you do use a point and shoot, you notice a difference right away, because there is significant distortion on these tiny lenses. So when you look at the corners of a beautiful shot, and people's faces are distorted a little bit or whatever. So a good SLR, if you're serious about photo and video,